Hey, Flooring Pros. I'm Jerry Levinson, and this is the Flooring Business Podcast, where we talk to expert flooring dealers, suppliers, marketing experts, software experts, and anyone I believe is going to help you in your flooring business. My mission is to give you good information. It's going to help you reach your goals. So if you're just starting your business, or you're trying to reach 5 million in sales, or you're getting ready to sell your business, you're going to find useful information that'll help you reach your goals and profit now in the flooring industry. Now, the Flooring Business Podcast is sponsored by Floors App. So for the best flooring business operating system and websites in the industry, go to Floors App. I'll help you out with that right now, too. We're working real tightly with Floors App. So now in this week, our special guest is Jack. Help me pronounce your last name.
Aspenson.
Aspenson, just like it's spelled, right?
Yep.
So, and he's with S3 Surface Solutions. Got some really interesting topics to go over today, especially around moisture, which is a huge topic in our forum. But Jack, give us a little background. I see you got 20 years in the flooring industry, company ownership, sales management. Give us a little bit of your background here.
Well, I started my first company when I was 18. Sold it when I was 19, bought another one at 20, sold it when I was 22, bought another one at 23, and sold it at 27. So I have a little experience going through what your installers and your dealers are dealing with. It's a challenge in business, and sometimes you got to know when to step aside. But my education in college was material science with a minor in physics, but I also have 4 other minors. And I actually never graduated college. I have 180 hours of college, 5 minors, and I found out I could make more money working for myself.
What were the types of businesses that you started and sold?
So I had 2 moving companies, and I had every guy's American dream. At 21, I owned a beach service on Panama City Beach, renting out jet skis and sailboats.
Really?
It was a tough job.
Yeah, that sounds brutal.
7 days
Why would you sell that?
I sold that 9 months well because I didn't want to sit with no money coming in for the winter months. So moving business was ingrained in me. I'm a military brat, so I went to 10 schools in 12 years in 8 different states, and just it seemed like a natural fit. I could drive a standard, which is today you have to go special order a standard, but I drove tractor trailers and I owned 14 of them at one point.
Wow. All right. What got you into this industry?
Quite honestly, I like to fix problems. I've spent most of my career either working for companies, creating businesses for other companies, or launching new products into the market, from everything from ERP systems to point of sale systems for restaurants on the technology side, to a grout that does not break down, called Marco grout, which is still on the market today, but I helped launch that. And I saw the flooring industry struggling. Matter of fact, it was personal experience, not in my own house, but in other businesses that I did work for. And I saw that their flooring was having tons of trouble with moisture, less than, when in the 90s, when they made the move to water soluble adhesives. The adhesives, in my opinion, at the time were just good enough. They were good enough to put it down and install, but if you got 7 to 10 years out of it, you were pretty lucky. And so we started S3 Surfaces primarily as an epoxy company to address moisture mitigation.
When did you start that company?
In 2016, actually 15, but I actually fully joined it myself in 16 because I had a previous commitment that I had made to a small company called Apple Computers. And so I stayed through 2016. June 15th of 2016 is pretty much what I call the launch. And we had epoxy line, we had a grout line, and we had a few other lines that I focused on fixing flooring problems. And our first customer was one of the big 3, the top 3 flooring companies. And we did some significant testing with them to start in a building that they affectionately call the swamp. It is 19 pounds of emissions consistently, 12 to 13 pH consistently. And if you put an RH probe in the concrete, it just waved at you and said, "I'm high." it was always above 99. And so we figured if we could solve that, where there was no intact vapor barrier, built in 1972, we could fix a lot of the problems in the flooring industry. And so that was the start of S3. And then it actually grew from there. We had clients come to us and say, hey, can you make an adhesive that will handle 99 RH, will handle plasticizer migration, can do all the backings with one adhesive. And 4 months later, we came out with what now is called 4151. It's got I think we're closing in on 140 million square feet installed without a failure.
So
in high moisture.
In my ignorance, what's that adhesive used to glue down?
Everything from cork to rubber to action back.
Is that adhering it to the materials or adhering it to the floor?
Materials to the floor.
Okay. And
so anything from LVP, VCT, sheet vinyl, we do it all in one adhesive.
Okay, cool. So do you work directly with the retailers, or do you work through the Shaw, Mohawks, the major suppliers?
Great question. We started out because we knew enough about the flooring industry. We didn't know kind of the relationships. So from installer to dealer to distributor to mill. So we started at the mill and worked our way out. Now we've changed our path and are working with distribution. And we have some large dealers that buy direct from us. But primarily we're moving towards a distribution model.
Okay, so allow me to dumb this down a little bit and talk
Sure.
about the person selling flooring inside a home in Arkansas, someplace with Louisiana, or someplace with a lot of moisture, a lot of water. So
Yep.
Walk me through that process for them. How are they inspecting the floors to make sure that they don't have too much moisture on them? What are they looking for in the way of a reading?
Right.
And then what materials should they be using to make sure they don't have moisture failure issues?
So interestingly, this is a little bit longer answer than the question. In a residential or commercial environment, you always want to find out, how old is the building first? That's usually a first giveaway of, yes, I have an intact vapor retarder or the possibility of it, or I have none. So pretty much prior to 1985, you're probably not going to either have an intact or even existing vapor retarder under the slab. And so moisture can move freely from the ground through the concrete. The key thing to understand is, and a lot of people want to push past this, especially general contractors, is that you have to have acclimation of the building, or in the construction world, they'll call it commissioning of the building, where your HVAC and your heating is on. That is the only way the slab can, what we call, meet an equilibrium with the air above it. That stops water transmission.
Yeah, but I got to get this floor down. They want to get it done so they can open it up, right?
Yep.
So how does that jam up these retailers and these flooring companies that, they want to earn this job. They want the big ass contract. They want to get it. Yep. They want it done at a certain date, but that building hasn't acclimated long enough. So how do they navigate that?
Yeah, right now, the first thing the cheapest and fastest way to go, oh my gosh, I might have a moisture problem, is do a pH test. If a pH test comes back that it's 12, you most likely have a moisture problem. 10, 9, 8, 9, 10, that's kind of the balance of oxidization on the paste layer. But if you're coming back 12, that means you probably have a moisture problem, and it's due to either acclimation or it could be very early concrete. New concrete, when it's poured, is about a 12.5 pH. The only way existing concrete can reach that level of pH is there has to be vapor transmission going on, which means the slab has to have a supply, which in the industry is RH. So RH is supply, MBER, or emissions rate, is transportation. And then what's left on the surface that creates a high pH is salt. And so the way to determine quickly, I may have a problem, is do a simple pH test. And once your pH test comes back, and let's say it's a 12, 13, now you want to look at an RH test, because the potential for an RH test to come back at 99, 95, or 90, which is kind of that sweet spot of, oh, I better pick the right adhesive, or I better figure out what's going on so that I pick the right moisture mitigation system.
Is there a way
You
to
can also tell.
accelerate the
Go
curing
ahead.
of that concrete to get this building ready? Is there any way to accelerate the acclimation process with
No,
heaters,
unfortunately,
or
when
air
you're
fans?
yeah, the problem is that you have to you can do it through chemical coatings, epoxies. You can also do it through in situ applications like our product called Moisture Shield, where you can slow that pace down, allow the concrete to not be as easily affected by the differences in temperature and humidity in the air versus the temperature and humidity in the concrete. So there are ways to speed up the process, but they're man-made. There's nothing you can do in a building other than, for instance, I had a building in Tampa, Florida, 5 stories, which you generally don't think moisture is, above grade like that. 9 months after the slab was poured, and it was at 99 RH, all 5 levels.
Wow.
They had just started acclimating the building. The problem is this was a poured in place building, so the slabs were 8 to 10 inches thick. It's a lot of water. And so what happens is when you put the probe down, you're generally, in this case, you can't go 1/4 the depth. You're generally going about 2.5 inches in that scenario.
Okay,
And go ahead.
practically speaking, you're in this situation.
Yeah.
How do you deal with this client? Are you recommending a different product? Are you recommending they wait? In what materials does the industry provide that backs up these claims? And that's one thing I don't see that's very clear. Now I'm in Arizona, so we don't have that
You have
problem.
moisture problems.
Yeah, not very often. We don't get
No.
too many warranty issues and things like that for moisture.
No.
So we haven't
I
had
just
to
did
deal
some
with it.
consulting
So
on a building out there.
how do we educate, say, Intel, wants to get a new floor down, but
Yep.
we know it's going to fail,
Yep.
but if they don't use us, they're going to use somebody else.
Yep.
What documentation does the industry provide? It doesn't seem like that's like ready, available, and easy to read that we can provide to our clients to prevent them from going to another contractor, because the
Yep.
other contractor said it wouldn't be a problem. He's been
First
doing
thing-
this for 30 years and this isn't a problem. So
Right. Yeah, I run into a few of those guys. If without measuring your moisture, you're kind of shooting in the dark. Or if there's been let's say we're in an existing building and there's always, whether it be commercial or residential, and there has been moisture problems with the flooring, that there's a possibility there. Over time, moisture can reduce, so you might not have as bad a problem as you had originally. You might want to, if you want to skip the steps of saying, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all the testing, which is expensive, then you need to look at what type of system can I put down that will remediate it and not cause a problem later, but not be what I would call overly expensive. There's a lot of epoxy systems out there on the market that they're $5 a square foot for the product and the process. Can I come up with a different solution, especially in a residential environment? Nobody's going to pay that. They don't have the money for that. So how do you fix that problem? You have to look for solutions. So we actually have a decision tree that says, if you have measurements like RH, pH, and MBER, here's the system that you need to use. Doesn't mean you have to go, you don't have to have all those measurements, but you at least need to have the 2 critical ones, which is MBER and RH. pH is a quick, easy one to do. And then apply a 2-step process or a 1-step process, and then 24 hours later, put down your flooring. If I was to talk to a dealer, I would look at their history. I would talk to them about their history and their experience. and say, where do you need to be? And then you have there within our system of S3, we have different levels of moisture mitigation that we could actually supply.
Now, I believe it's the problem is really an opportunity for the individual retail to create a flyer or documentation. It doesn't have to come from some source that's government oriented or, or even the supplier. You can create that documentation to give the client confidence in you and make them afraid to not use you. Something I like to say often, but and showing them what you need to, where you need to be in order to get this project done and be able to warranty it and not have problems with moisture, which seems to be just growing. The more educated, you've been doing this since 2016, getting products out on the market. And
it's been a while.
Yeah, doesn't it? But doesn't it seem like the problem's getting worse, not better? Like we're getting less educated and doing more work, especially with luxury vinyl click, where they're having just a tremendous amount of failures.
Yep. Luxury vinyl click always, when they first brought it out, do you remember it was waterproof?
Yeah.
Right? From the top down, it was waterproof. Great for having kids and all that stuff, but it wasn't, and it wouldn't allow water to come through, but it also didn't allow water to go anywhere. So you ended up with failures due to it not being able to move. It's interesting you talked about them creating a flyer and doing that. We actually have done that worked with a few clients to build one for them. There's 5 reasons people buy stuff. First, they like the salesperson. Second, they trust the company. Third, they trust the product. And then the 4th and 5th are easy. It's budget and time. Mm-hmm. If you build the trust on the company and your products and the rest of it comes down to timing and budget. So I always love that, because when you talk to somebody and say, well, when did you buy a car? And you wanted to buy it today and you had money, but the dealerships around were dealers you didn't like, you're not going to buy a car today. Right. You'll go somewhere else. So if I was a dealer installer in this business right now, I would build my reputation on a product line that I can trust, that doesn't fail, and that provides me with the education on how to determine there's a problem potential.
And I take the approach, because I do coaching, consulting with these people, and I have sales training, but I take the approach of it's in your sales presentation, because you can take a salesperson, create a good presentation, and salesperson that might not be that good, you can make them excellent by giving them a proper sales presentation. So something like this, even though I don't know as much as a lot of flooring dealers out there, I can outsell them because I would create the documentation to back up my product and my service. So, and it's different when you're telling somebody versus when you're showing them. When you're showing them on a piece of paper, it's real and memorable. So, but if you're showing them, or if you're just telling them, then it's your word against somebody else's, and I want to get this thing going.
Yeah. It's asking and understanding the customer's environment and asking the right questions clarifies the ability to explain your product line and your solution in their terms.
Yeah. And again, with all these states that have a significant amount of moisture, it's a huge opportunity to go over that and show what kind of moisture barriers and what kind of adhesive you're using and all that. So talk about that a little bit. What about the moisture barriers that are out there? What's good to use? Is there a problem with trapping moisture? What if you do have a concrete slab, like you said before, 1985, where moisture flows freely? Is that the best course of action to trap that moisture from coming through?
So most good, there's an E96 test that a lot of people like to put their credit on, and that only involves 100% solids epoxies as a qualifier. So everybody has one, from Ardex to Mapei to Shonox to Maxon and a bunch of other companies. And they all vary. Some are water-based, some are 100% solids, and they claim to meet E96, which means it locks down moisture to less than 3 pounds of emissions rate. And the reason they do that is 3 pounds was always the maximum value that you needed to put an epoxy coating or any type of a coating on a concrete slab. Flooring's a little more forgiving. It goes up to 5 pounds. Depends on the manufacturer. It could be slightly different, but in general, if you're below 5 pounds of emissions rate, you're pretty good. And then RH, in the 2000s became the gold standard. And unfortunately, RH is, although needed to understand, is just a supply issue. It tells you, yep, you got a potential for a moisture problem. Right now, the epoxies that are out there lock down moisture and they release it at less than 3 pounds, which a lot of times will evaporate between vinyl plank and carpet tile. Sheet vinyl, a little bit different because you are now putting a double layer on top of there of locking it in there.
Yeah, but most people aren't using any epoxy. They're doing floating floors.
They're exactly. And those floating floors are gathering moisture. So in the residential world, we've seen them using 6 mil poly or 10 mil poly and then putting the floating floor on it. You're still locking moisture in. You asked if there's anything detrimental to it. Well, you can have a buildup of so when vapors come up, let's say we have a warm slab that's wet. And what I mean by warm is it could be 72, but you have air temperature, your air conditioning is 68 and it's 30% humidity. So both humidity and temperature are different. That vapor is gonna come out because they're trying to meet an equilibrium. That vapor is gonna come out and condense, much like you would if this was glass. Ice would create in a humid environment water droplets on the outside. That's condensation. You would end up with liquid on top of your slab, but between your floating floor and the slab, which is part of the reason it causes problems. The best avenue for remediating that or just getting it before it happens is to either put down a epoxy or put down some form of in situ barrier, which means it's a spray-on application that'll stop the emissions rates.
A spray on?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of them out there.
I've never seen or heard of anything like that.
So one of our products, what we're proposing for residential, is when you pour your slab, as soon as I can walk on it, we can spray an application onto there that will go into the concrete. It has 2 systems. The first system, it's a cure and seal, a waterproofer, and an internal moisture membrane all in one product. What it does is it actually reacts off 100% of the Portland at the base layer, which minimizes capillary action and makes the matrix very tight. The second piece of our product is a polymer system that's moisture sensing. So if water comes down, they swell up top and don't allow water to go in, which doesn't contribute to the moisture being built up in the concrete. And when that building's ready to be built, the in situ barrier is already stopping moisture emissions from coming out. Now you're talking about something like a 1,200 square foot slab, $800 to do the whole slab.
Okay, so about 75 cents a foot.
And be lifetime, 60 cents a square foot. Yeah, 62 cents. But that's a lifetime application.
So with that, are you not putting down a moisture barrier then?
Very few builders put down vapor retarders in residential.
So what's the cost of a moisture barrier typically?
It can be as much or more.
So
you're talking about a 12 mil to 16 mil, 20 mil poly.
And I believe when you're selling, you sell all inclusive and include that in your price and just tell people that's what you're doing, not add that as a line item additional cost. But that's
probably not when you're pouring a slab. You're not going to add that as an additional cost.
When you are, I'm talking about you can use the spray instead of a moisture barrier, if I'm understanding you correctly.
A retarder, yeah, underneath the concrete, yeah.
So with that spray, you will, how soon can you start installing after you spray? You said it's 2 applications?
Well, remember, a new construction is what we're doing. So you're at least 30 days before the building's built and dried in. So you're not going to be doing anything for 30 days. We typically in new concrete say wait 28 days, just like Your slab has to
28
go.
days before you spray it or after?
No. We spray it as soon as you can walk on it. So there's no walls. It's just
Okay,
a
so this
concrete
won't
block.
work in, I'm talking like replacement, residential replacement. If you're going in, you tear out the
Different
floor.
story.
Yeah, okay.
So we can, in replacement, for instance, we've done, God, I don't even know how many buildings we've done. We're over 14 million square feet on commercial and some residential, where we go in and they have to remove the glue first of older adhesives or whatever, or older flooring, I should say. We actually have a first product called Surface Prep that is a non-acid etching agent. And what it does is it opens up the concrete, cleans the concrete, opens up the pores. So now the concrete's much more breathable. And then we apply Moisture Shield on that. And you can install on it next day. Or even in some cases, if you do it early in the morning, you're installing it on that afternoon. We say 6 to 8 hours.
Oh, that's not bad. So
No.
that can even go in with your acclimation process, other than, you're taking an extra day for the install because you do your tear out, then you would treat the floors.
Yeah.
So I've never even heard of anything like that though.
Yeah, it's been primarily used in the commercial world because we do so many renovations. Every 7 years.
Why isn't anybody using that in residential retail?
You just hit a nerve with me, not nerve with me. I actually am going, I don't understand this. There are as many or more problems I think in the residential world. You're about 30 to 40% of your residential properties have some form of moisture, which attributes to mold and mildew and a bunch of other stuff, right?
Right.
In commercial, you're only about 20% of all buildings. Commercial's going down, but residential's is going up.
Does
ridiculous.
Does the spray add anything to the warranty? Does it have any of its guarantees or anything come along with it?
It's a 10-year warranty on it.
So that'll help you offer the warranty on your installation.
Absolutely. Yep.
So yeah, one of the challenges I think that the industry has done a poor job of dumbing this stuff down and making it simple. Like I said, many of the products have multiple names to them. It's like, really, just
depends on who private labels.
I'm selling the stuff and I don't understand what you're talking about. So it's like, how's the consumer supposed to understand that? I'm looking at different carpet fibers and here's two that look exactly the same, and they're telling me, well, this is tonal, this is texture.
Right.
What the hell? I don't know from a customer's standpoint what's the difference and why I should care.
You brought up a good point. We make it too complex. One of the key foundations of our business, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term blue ocean strategy, but it's a way of developing a business. And I'm a 100% firm believer in it. And so they have 2 books out there right now. And I think there's a third one coming out. But the first one was written in the 90s. Blue ocean is all about differentiating yourself from your competitors. Making your own market and making that one irrelevant. Blue ocean meaning you can charge what price you need to get. Red ocean means you're literally racing to the bottom. Let's see who can be the cheapest. When we designed these systems or these products that became systems, the first thing that we said is we can't introduce new tools. We can't make this harder to install than something else could be. And so everything that we've designed in our entire system changes no tools.
Okay.
All right. If it added a tool, it's very inexpensive, like a Hudson sprayer, a little pump sprayer that uses to spray weed killer. That's what we spray the Moisture Shield and Surface Prep on the concrete. Not hard, very easy.
Here's what you guys are failing to do, if you will allow me to say so.
Sure.
And when I talk about you guys, it's the industry as a whole, suppliers and all that. You scientifically, academically sell it to us instead of providing the retailer, us, the materials to sell it to our customer. It hasn't been dumbed down. How many flooring brochures or magazines talk about things like wear layer and what's the technical term for the dent? This wood flooring dent, There's a
Impact.
rating and all that. And
Impact rating.
yeah, so, but the way it's done, it's so scientifically and done and complicated to understand.
Mhm.
And it's like, and you're selling it to us. It's like, well, help me sell it to
Mhm.
the consumer.
Yep.
Help me sell the process for putting it down, the 5 steps that you need to go through to make sure that you
Mhm.
have a guaranteed floor, and that
Mhm.
you have a proper installation, and what are some of the things to maybe avoid to getting a shoddy install done. I mean, that
Right.
stuff should just be simple and clear and easy to put out, name the process, put it out there. And
Right.
and for somebody like you, when you develop that process, you make people want to buy your product because it's easy to sell your product.
Yeah, and it's easy to install. I mean,
Right.
we've had, I think combined total, we're over 200 million square feet installed of all of our products, and we've only had, that I can count, 5 incorrect installations.
And
And
you're
by
not
the
even
way,
hitting the residential retail market.
yeah,
And you're not even hitting the residential retail
and I'm
market.
not even hitting the residential retail market. Yeah, this is in the commercial environment. And when you introduce a new product, like our asbestos abatement product,
Yeah.
or asbestos isolation product, if I did it, and by the way, I have a house on one of my properties next to my warehouse that has asbestos in it. I just haven't knocked it down yet. But asbestos isolation membrane, we have the only product in the market that's warrantable. And everybody goes, well, how hard is it to put down? I said, well, can you paint?
Yeah.
It's a dip and roll. It's not very hard. If you mix it properly, that's the main thing, is mix it properly. The application is simple.
Do you guys have complications or any restrictions in going direct to market versus do you have to work through the channels of the supplier? And by direct market, I mean the retailers.
And I have a good friend of mine. He's a residential dealer in Rockwall, Texas. And if he called me and says I need product, I'd ship him product. If
Right.
somebody called me and says I have one of the things that I'd like to start working with, and I see this as huge for the quality, and we started talking about it with applying moisture shield onto the concrete as it's poured. Let's take a big builder, I don't know, D.R. Horton, and they build hundreds of homes a year, and they have failures in quite a few of them. Or not failures, but I would say problems with flooring and a lot of these. Breathable carpet or broadloom carpet, you never had those problems because it actually allowed the concrete to acclimate with the air because it breathed both ways, right?
Right.
You put non-porous surfaces on there like LVT and BCT or VLT, and you don't have that moisture moving. Even carpet tiles won't allow that to go. Not that there's a lot of carpet tiles in residential, but so we have to find a way. And this is what I've been trying to talk to a lot of the dealers and stuff that I know that work within these big builders is, if you can take away all the future potential for a problem, isn't it worth $800?
Yeah.
And that 800, then do we make it a transferable warranty to the resident, the owner? Well, that takes everything off of it.
Like I said, I don't even know if it's fair to say that it's $800 because you also reduce the expense on the other end.
Yes.
So if you use that, you eliminate a different expense. So it may be saving you money. I think you're neutral on the cost.
Right. Then that's been the hardest thing to talk to these guys about in the residential side of some of these mills, is you're really not costing them any money.
Well, I'd like to see go directly to the retailer.
I think if I can, and this has been actually our focus for the end of this year, is working with the builders like Lennar and D.R. Horton and Beazer and some of the local ones. I live in Georgia, so I have some Georgia builders that I've already talked to about this, and it's a cure and seal too, which is even more important because now you don't have what they call curling in the concrete. If it cures to in non-proportionately, it could cure on the outside and not cure on the inside and cause a curling.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of benefits to being able to do it at the onset of building a building, but you can also recover a 100-year-old building using the same products, just a slightly different process.
Yeah. Yeah. And our audience, and this is why I keep going back to this and keep pushing this, is the people that are doing residential retail. And I keep seeing them have failures after failures and blaming the product or blaming the installers or something, and they just don't have a good process to mitigate the moisture issues.
Well, you know, we did, when we saw this happening and we started moving towards residential, we actually have an adhesive called 2075 that's a 99 RH adhesive. It doesn't have to have all of the, I hate these terms, but bells and whistles or feature benefits that my high-end glue, which is 4151, which is designed for commercial, specifically healthcare, but and healthcare and others, but the 2075 is a 99 RH adhesive. So now you use moisture shield on the concrete, whether it be retrofit or new, and you use a 99 RH adhesive that can glue down vinyl plank, sheet vinyl with the one glue. So now you're carrying one bucket out there, you're carrying one bucket out there again for the glue, and you're done. And it's all a system warranty from what I call feet to concrete.
All right. Have you ever installed any floors yourself?
Oh God, a lot.
Really?
I've renovated 3 houses and I did all the work myself.
Well,
I do plumbing, electrical.
You're getting paid for it, but you did your own. So
you listen, you don't learn unless you do it yourself. And so I've put down, I've probably done 7,000 square feet of wood and probably about 4,000 square feet of click lock back in the day, it was all there was pergo. I've laid tile floors in commercial kitchens, and
I admire guys like you that have done that. I mean, I know Jason Goldberg will get down on his knees and do the work himself. And me, I throw my back out if I watch a guy installing. So
well, I'm at the age now, my hip hurts when I get up.
Right.
And I do need knee pads. I can't do it without knee pads.
It's not hard to get down, but getting back up is a killer.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah. I enjoy, if you can't do it yourself, then you're never going to be able to explain to somebody else.
So a couple other topics you wanted to hit on were labor shortages. Yeah. So how does, and again, I'm going to go back to the people listening to the show are the residential retailers.
Yeah.
And a lot of smaller companies, what do you advise to them? How do you find a good installer and keep them?
You know, so I want to make a reference to, I just put a new generator, the Generac generator in my house. And we had gas company guys come out. There's 3 of them. We had 4 guys doing the installation, and I had 2 electricians in my house. And only the electrician's son, who was his helper, and the one kid that owned the dealership that I bought the Generac from were under 45. The rest of us were, and I helped a lot. I did some of the work of pulling the electrical, but we were all 55 to 62. And I looked at this group of people in 3 different trades and went, what are we going to do when all of us old guys go away? I said, we've got to start incentivizing, and in some cases, you're going to have to pay for younger people to enter the business and train them, give them a skill. One of my biggest problems nationally is we don't have a lot of trade schools anymore. We've got to have junior colleges and stuff address the need for certain trades. Flooring is definitely needed to have somebody teach the younger generation, you can make a good living at this. And it's a stable living.
One of the biggest problems that was identified in another show was it's not even on the menu. I mean, if you want to go to a trade school, they don't even know flooring is a thing, flooring installation. So there's, people talk about how hard a work it is or bad pay or whatever. No, that's not it. It's just because that stuff's not necessarily true. It's good work and the pays can be really good, but it's just not even an option for kids, because if you don't tell them about it, how are they supposed to really know?
How are they going to know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
where would a kid go that's interested in it too? It's like,
I was on a job. I had to go inspect a job at a university, and they brought me over, and they were doing another install in a different area of the campus. And they brought me over to look at that too, although they weren't concerned about that. What I was looking at, the other thing I was looking at was a really old building with asbestos and a few other challenges in it. And I get to the job, and there's one guy, probably 45, and the rest of the group was under 25. And I literally walked over to one of the guys and I said, "How'd you get into this?" He says, "Well," he goes, I was walking down the street and I saw these guys installing a floor." And I said, "And what would you do?" And he said, "I walked up and asked him if I could have a job." And I went, "You're rare." You're not somebody that, I said, "You're the kind of people we look for and then want to." And then once you get them in, I agree with you. Once we got to get these top of mind, it's got to be in front of their faces and say, "Here's a career you can make money at. And by the way, this job will never go away."
It's
right?
a very interesting career too. And the work is interesting. It's fun. It's fun to fit things in. And
Yeah.
I've never done flooring myself, but I've done things like pipe fitting and upholstery. And I know when you're creating and you're using your hands and you're creating
There's
something
pride.
that people really love.
Yeah.
I was telling my stepson the other day about the pipe fitting job I was in. And I said, no matter how beautiful you make those pipes, they're just pipes.
There's
Where I was in the window covering business installing blinds, and people would appreciate hanging a wood blind, which anybody could do. But
yeah.
flooring is just, people just are very, have a lot of appreciation for your skills and your work. And that's enjoyable to do something that people really appreciate and they love.
What's one of the first things you notice when you go into a new friend's house?
Well, I'm still looking at the window coverings. I don't know.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
in
that's
that
okay.
business for 20 years. And it tells me also when I go in the restaurants, I look at the seats because I was in upholstery for so long. So I'm still not, I've never done installs, so I still don't have the habit of looking at the floors.
The first thing I do is, I'm an old hat, but when I'm walking up to the building, I look for problems.
Yeah.
Like if I see efflorescence on the wall, it's either a sprinkler system or they have a moisture problem. I can pretty much tell you that right off the bat. If I see the sprinkler system, then I go, it's probably sprinklers.
I'm looking for business opportunities. I go in, and as a consultant, I'm like, I would change the menu, or I would train my employees, or, I look for those kind of things. The first thing that stands out to me,
Well, that is a business opportunity for me when I find moisture.
Right.
But, the other thing that I'd say with the kids, the younger generation today, is teach them how to run their own, don't just give them a job and say, "Go do this, and I'm going to teach you how to do this." Is talk to them about what their future looks like. My buddy that owns his own dealership, he subcontracts, but he has built businesses before. He has a construction management background, and he's been part of mentorship programs. And so his younger installers, he'll spend a couple hours with them a week teaching them, here's how to run your own business, or here's how to, 99% of all kids coming out of school today don't even know how to invest, or what the economics of their money looks like, or know how to put a budget together. And so he'll spend time with them. You show people how to be successful. You show them a job that they can make money at. Now, how do you make that money work for you? And that's, I think, the total solution. I did it with my kids, and they hated it when I did it, but then they appreciated it when mine are in their mid 20s to 30s. So, and they're all successful right now. Knock on something. But we're going to have to mentor these kids through, show them the success that they can have, and they'll stay around.
My 17-year-old's reading Rich Dad Poor Dad right now. So
awesome. That's a great book.
That book. I said, well, say Think and Grow Rich for later. That's a little too complicated to understand. But Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's fun to have those conversations about it. And they see me working in consulting and all that. And so we talk about that. We talk about the business, talk about what I teach other flooring dealers, the sales, the raising their prices, all that. And it's just, everything is looked at completely different, how sales are made and how business is done. And it's fun and it's fascinating. It's interesting. So I love it talking to my kids about all this stuff.
I mean, the first thing I started with my children was compound interest, the magic of compound interest.
Yeah.
Save $200 a year till you're 42, or $200 a month till you're 42, and you're worth 2 million when you're 62.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but that also, you know, the labor shortage is not going to get better right now. We're going to have to find people that can stick around, that know how to produce more, that know how to produce and can produce more through education. The second part of the big problem in the industry right now that is actually starting to get better was supply chain. For 2.5 years, supply chain was a nightmare. Now it's getting better.
I had that on there, but not a huge topic I want to talk to you about, because it seems like that's not as big an issue anymore. Like that's
it's not, but you have some key things in the world going on right now that can cause some. You're not going to have a lot of notice before it becomes a problem. You know, I work with another company that I own in a different industry, and year and a half ago, sulfur, which is one of the ingredients in our products, was $500 a ton. Now it's $80 a ton, because of two little countries at war. You got Russia and Ukraine, because those two countries make 79% of the ammonia in the world, which is also used in the development of fertilizer with sulfur. So the demand's dropped. Guess what happened? The market went out from underneath it. So you got to, there's things going on all over the world. Like right now, if what is it called? There's a few chemicals in the world that are used in certain flooring products that in the product they're okay, but if they break down, then they're not good for the environment.
I know there's shipping went through the roof for a short while, and then that's since corrected itself. So that was the fourth topic.
You know what the problem there was?
What's that?
You know what the problem there was with all the containers being stuck at the ports?
Regulation?
Nope, we didn't have enough warehouse space.
Oh, crazy. So
and the number one thing being built today is warehouses.
Yeah, crazy. Eco-friendly flooring solutions was another thing you had on here. Is there a demand for? I'm kind of skittish on this topic because I never believed in eco-friendly products unless there was a cost-saving benefit or time-saving benefit. I don't think there is a big demand for green products or eco-saving products unless there's a cost savings benefit that goes along with it.
Well, a lot of the mills today on flooring are really looking at the entire life cycle of the product. So from raw material to creation to demolition, what happens when it gets taken out of a building. That is a cradle to cradle type of situation. And I think they have to start going that way because regulation is going to drive them that way. But it also, if you volunteer to go that way, you look like you're, and I hate to use this term, you look like you're trying to be conscious about it. We designed all of our products out of the ground to be from cradle to cradle friendly to humans and the environment. Is that a cost increase in our products? No, it's not a cost increase in our products. For instance, 4151 adhesive is the only UL Green Guard gold adhesive on the market. And it's very expensive, but it does everything. Yeah. But then you look at my my self-leveling and my patch. They're 70% recycled. Is that a big deal? No, but I am getting rid of waste streams. And I also have the only patch and self-leveling in the industry right now that are completely moisture resistant. We don't care about moisture. Passes through, or in my self-leveling, it's a moisture mitigation system. So you can do eco-friendly without having the eco-friendly price tag. And I think everybody needs to look that direction.
And it's fine. I'm just also from a marketing standpoint, it doesn't move the needle near as much as
Not yet.
We are told that people are, because we've been told for years that people care about going green and push that in the marketing message. And when it comes down to it, any marketing message other than find beautiful floors doesn't really work. I mean, you can do cost savings, that works, but when all of them were putting out, this is how we're handling COVID, it's like nobody cares.
Nobody cared about that. Yeah,
They're coming to your website to find floors.
Yeah.
So focus on that. And even some companies have a love your floor guarantee. So they'll replace the floor. That was the first message. And it's like, that's just way too soon. This is a selling point, not a marketing feature. Right. So I also think the eco-friendly, it's a little bit of a marketing feature, but it shouldn't be the main marketing feature. It's mostly, to me, a selling benefit. So when you're there, you're in front of the customer. Because you do have those customers that call and ask, but good, your marketing got them there. Now you can answer that question, sell them and bring them in.
Yep.
So
for instance, like I think it was early 2000s, bamboo floor was a really big deal because it was renewable and it was durable.
Yeah. How come nobody's created a simulated bamboo floor that?
Who did?
Nobody's created like a bamboo floor something that looks like bamboo, but it's not.
No, right. Yeah, I don't know. but that, like, I mean, when I had my third house, we actually we put bamboo flooring throughout, and my wife goes, "Why'd we buy bamboo?" I said, "Well, it's nice. It wasn't that much more expensive than the other floor, but it's a solid product that we have dogs, and we've always had 2 or 3 dogs, and those dogs would tear up traditional wood floors. Well, they didn't do anything to bamboo. It was easy to clean.
Yeah,
that was my driving motive factor. Yeah, it's renewable. Cool. I'm contributing. But in my world now, I'm constantly looking at how do I contribute to the benefit of the environment, to the benefit of the interior airspace. I grew up with lead paint and drinking out of a water hose, and nothing's wrong with me now other than a tick I have. I'm just kidding. But I always try to make sure that what we're developing is not contributing. That's just a goal of our company. That's a goal of my scientists, and we have to move that direction forward. That is part of our DNA. We just don't go in and do anything that would be detrimental to humans.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. So, all right. Anything else you wanted to add, Jack? Otherwise, I close out the show. It was a good interview, and I know a lot of people will benefit from the moisture talk. And like I said, if there's any way you can help dealers sell that product, I think you have a winner there. Just a simple flyer that shows, here's how we test, here's how we treat your floors, here's why it's guaranteed. This adds, just like carpet pad adds to the warranty. You know why? Absolutely. Nobody does that. Nobody has a moisture mitigation process that contributes to your warranty like they do carpet pad.
Yeah.
So
I know.
There you go.
Well, think about this too. Think about how many homes have basements.
Yeah.
Well, not in Arizona, but
none. Yeah.
None. It's like Oklahoma. If you have a basement, you have an underground pool because you are sitting on top of an aquifer. But in Georgia, everybody has a basement. Well, you have either a portion of a significant portion, 75 to 80% of your basement's below grade, and the general contractors prior to like 2010 weren't even sealing off the walls.
Oh,
and
wow.
So you were getting water into your basement and you're having to run a dehumidifier. I mean, those little things like that teach your dealers how to deal with it. They won't have problems.
Yeah.
You understand that. On grade's easy.
I'm marketing selling guy. I don't know anything about installation or moisture. But yeah.
But I mean, that's
learn about it.
We could in a 1-page both side brochure say, here's the problem, and on the other side, here's the solution.
Right.
And keep it
And that
simple.
solution should be simple. It's step by step, step 1, step 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom.
Absolutely.
And this is what we do. And again, like I said, it should add to the installation warranty.
Yeah, and you need to have one for, like you said, remodel or retrofit, and then one for new construction.
Right. Yeah, the new construction is a whole different client, though. That's like, like you said, you're going commercially after the builders.
Yes.
So it's completely different marketing and different target audience. But yeah, that
But it's a
residential
fast
retail.
turnaround for installers.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Yeah. It was probably a hell of a lot faster than laying down visqueen and
Ripping up stuff, putting it back in.
yeah. So
I mean, we have a product called Unglued 2 that you could spray on broadloom, glue down broadloom adhesive, and it makes the glue release from the concrete and stick to the carpet. So when you roll it up, the glue comes off it with it.
oh wow, that's incredible. People need to know about that. Does
It-
that work on commercial glue?
Oh yeah, yeah. Both our unglued products will remove any commercial glue.
Oh wow.
And
That's
by the way, they're both those products biodegradable, completely natural.
Are you in any stores that your products like Big D or any supplier stores?
Nope, we haven't gone retail.
That's a-
We actually, with the unglued products, we're exploring retail with a couple distributors right now, or I should say retailers, to minimize. It's a 5-gallon bucket right now,
yeah.
and let's shrink that down to maybe a 2-gallon bucket.
Yeah. So are you in the flooring dealer group? Have you been in there on Facebook?
I have not yet. No.
Okay. So we got about
Please send me the
7,000
link, I
people
will.
in there. Okay. There's about 7,000 people in there. And like I said, you'll see all these problems that come up that you guys have the solution for.
Yeah, I'd love to have
Thumbs up.
I mean, I'm with
Awesome.
another group, a construction podcast. I do a question and answer session with them.
Okay. Okay. This will be huge. All right,
Yeah.
Jack, sounds good. Let me close out this show and then I'll send you that link too. And you'll see this come up on the podcast on YouTube as well.
Okay.
But okay, guys, thanks for joining the Flooring Business Podcast. If you'd like to have a one-on-one discovery call for your flooring business, where we can review where you're at and how you can increase sales and profits by over 30%, go to jerrylevinson.com. In there's a free assessment where you can score your business and see which areas need the most improvement. So everybody have a great, profitable week and a profitable year.